else somebody might. Public comment.
It's not quite what I said, but I'm happy to stay.
That should be 4B. So we're back to 4B now.
Hello, everyone. This is the first time I've been the first to present, so I'm kind of excited. This is good. And in honor of that, I have a very short presentation this morning, respectful to everyone. Under finance, you have all of my full report, and if you have any questions, you know where to find me, or can ask me at the end if I haven't covered it. Our census was below budget at the beginning of the year. It has improved significantly, except it was just a wee bit below budgeted census for the month of October. As a consequence, we're behind in revenue. The other problem that we experienced was we had a loss of $11.83 per Medicaid resident day for this fiscal year, and they graciously gave us back 40 cents of that for next year. So we'll be $11.43 behind what we were. It's been a struggle, and we'll be continuing to struggle next year. We're in the process of working on our 2018 budget, and we're almost there, but not quite. Our Medicaid auditors did visit us and did 3 years of audit. They did 13, 14, and 15, and there will be some changes, but I don't have that formal letter yet from them. Under people, all our nursing administration positions were filled. Vacancies still exist for a few CNA positions, but we're really getting close to full employment. Now, we all know that isn't going to last, but at least for a brief moment in time, it will be peace in the kingdom and every position filled. Our IT position remains open at this writing, but we're researching a contracted company to fill this position to save on legacy costs. We have 3 bids we're assessing, and we'll be looking at 1 more. Under service, we continue to honor our residents, or our residents and our staff through public social media for anniversaries and such, and for our resident of the month. We continue to offer free meeting space to community groups who request space to meet. And we continue to participate with the regional emergency planning teams for our region. We continue at 4-star CMS rating, and that's going to be held and frozen for 18 months due to the change in the regulations and the rollout that we just found out about a couple weeks ago. We also continue with 5 stars in quality, which is as good as it gets, and that enabled us to be eligible for a new program in the state of Michigan, which is the quality measure incentive, and that could be, now it's at CMS right now, we don't anticipate there'll be any changes in that protocol from them, but there may be some. I was privileged to be part of that team for a period, and it looks like it could be as good as $385,000 a year for us, which is significant. We underwent an accreditation process through the Maya Rothschild Foundation last week, and it went really, really well. They exited telling us they couldn't tell us for sure because they had to do all the weighted numbers because everything is a validated process. But they said to look for a Christmas present, so we're hopeful. Under growth, our CON was finally completed, finally approved, so they're able to work inside and outside now, and that work progressed starting today. And the final thing I wanted to share is that we're participating with the Dementia Engagement Project through the Ellis Sharp, and we anticipate that we will be speaking a couple times to the community there for education on enabling and engaging with dementia, people with dementia. That's pretty much it. Everything else is on here. If you have any questions.
No, excuse me. No, but that was short and specific, so thank you. Any questions by the committee?
My privilege.
Nothing?
Thank you. Sure.
Sure.
The public meeting space, would someone contact you for
Yes.
reserving that public meeting
Yes.
space?
Mhm.
Okay.
We keep a calendar, and we have about 4 groups that come regularly, but we definitely have time open, especially in the evenings.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yep.
Mary Beth, Lifeways.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So you have in your packet this month's report. I want to talk about a couple of the items that are in your packet. But before I start, I would just like to request of the Commissioners to have thoughts related to one of our board members who is not doing well, who is at U of M. So if you would please keep him in your thoughts, I would greatly appreciate it. In your packet, we have an update related to, we do participate with the state innovation model within our community as part of the Health Improvement Organization. And one of there's many strategies, but one of the strategies that we're going to be implementing at the beginning of the, after the first of the year is a crisis R&R. And what that is a diversion service for our communities for diverting people out of the emergency room. There's a lot, and there's some list of the different activities that have occurred to align our organization to be able to start that beginning February 1st. So you will start seeing in January some communication plan within the community around the crisis R&R, and it will be a diversion, and we're anxiously and hopeful because we do have the support of our local law enforcement that they will be able to divert people that do not need to be at our local emergency room. So stay tuned. We'll keep you appraised as to how that is going. The other thing I wanted to appraise you all, and it really doesn't relate to Lifeways. However, there's been lots of questions in the community related to this treatment court recovery housing program. So there's been a lot of discussion about this, and individuals on my board were wanting to know what is this and what's happening related to it in our community. Thought the best opportunity was to actually bring Earl Pileski, who now sits on the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, to Lifeways to talk about it. He would clearly know what it is and what the intent is and where is Jackson as it relates to this program. So it's important to note, because a lot of people are confused and they think that this is a drug treatment residential program. It's not. What it is about providing housing for individuals who are part of the drug court programs here in Jackson as an opportunity for them to have available housing. Now, there is a plan that on the first floor of the development, if we were to be selected, Jackson, that they would have the ability of having services on site. It is not a treatment residential program. program. Right now, there are several counties that are being looked at. However, the counties themselves have to submit a proposal with the developer in order to get approved through MISTA. So that's the next step. They would have to submit a proposal in April. So just in case any of you hear what is that and what does that mean and what's happening with that, that is directly from MISTA as to what's going on. Also included in your packet is related to some numbers to share with you. Where are we related to the number of people served, specifically for Medicaid and Healthy Michigan. So you can see that we have seen an increase, and this is overall, so it's inclusive of both Jackson and Hillsdale County, but we've seen an increase of individuals that we're serving in Medicaid and in Healthy Michigan. On the next page is related to our HEDIS measures, so this provides information related to the outcomes, and what you'll see, this data actually compares Lifeways to not just the regional level that we're part of 12 other CMHs, but also compares us to the state, and you'll see that in many areas, Lifeways is actually an outlier related. We're performing better, so that's a great thing for us to be able to celebrate. The other thing, the last thing that I wanted to obviously give an update on is related to Section 298, and where is the state related to the movement on that. So right now, the state of Michigan has, they have released two important documents. One of them is called the Barrier Report. It's the report that went to legislators that identified what are the potential barriers, both from a policy and from a legislative perspective, that prevents moving forward with privatizing the public mental health system. So that's an important document that's available on the state's website. The other piece of that is related to what they're calling a white paper. And what that white paper does, again, is kind of give the overview of Section 298 moving forward, and does identify the importance of the fact that the community mental health by law is actually the one that needs to be the one that would submit the request to participate. State of Michigan, any day, I would anticipate this week, at least before the holidays, a request for interest where they're going to be looking to see if there are any CMHs in the state of Michigan who, in partnership with the health plans in their counties, want to be a pilot. There's still the expectation from the state that any community mental health that wants to be a pilot in the state has to have all health plans signing up to be a part of that. And for our region, that's 6 health plans for both Hillsdale and Jackson. And I can just tell you, discussions I've had with the health plans of the 6 within our region, we only have 1 who would be interested in being a part of a pilot. So stay tuned, I guess, is really the word on the street. We'll have to wait and see what happens, because some of the feedback from the state is that if there is not a willing CMH out of the 46 in the state, that they would require a certain CMH to participate. So that's pretty much where we're at related to that. And that is it for my report, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Mary Beth. Any questions or comments for the CEO?
How you doing, Mary Beth?
Good.
Good. Just want to say that the employee appreciation dinner was very, very nice.
Oh, thank you.
Lots of fun. I do have a couple of questions about the treatment court recovery housing program.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my first question is, when was the meeting with Mr. Pileski?
Oh, I sent it out in the board weekly communique. I would say that it was roughly a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Was it that, and I remember when we talked about this in the Lifeways meeting, was it prior to that or after that?
I would have
that
given an
meeting?
update already, so it was prior. I've had the meeting since then.
Okay. My next question would be, do you know if there's any interest in the community right now for someone to submit or is there any talks about a?
There's
proposed
talks, so
agreement?
that's where all the confusion's occurring. So I guess at the city level, there's some discussions that are occurring related to potentially a location, somebody donating property space. I'm not privy to those discussions, I just know I was hearing that, and I had board members concerned about what exactly is happening. So I do think that there is an interest. I think the biggest thing that was communicated to me from Earl was the importance of the fact that the developers have to find people to contribute funding for this project. There's a certain percent that MISTA can support. And I do know that there's several communities that they're looking at. Jackson's one of them they're looking at, but until somebody actually submits a formal proposal to MISTA, it really isn't anything at this point other than talk about planning for that. Kalamazoo, and I think it might have included it in the report. Kalamazoo's got a pretty solid development plan, what it sounds like. But
So these other places that you listed have already expressed that they plan on submitting a proposal, or proposals have already been submitted from these other?
nobody has submitted a proposal yet.
Okay.
The submission timeframe is for April of this next year. I just know from the discussions with Earl that several of these, the same thing. They're, just like Jackson's hearing about it and people are talking about it, these other communities are talking about it. The one community sounds like they're a little more farther down the road related to actually having some type of formal plan and a potential investor, which is that Centria, or not Centria, but I think I listed it in the report, who's a potential investor or developer for that and looking for also investors. That's really the extent of my knowledge related to this. So,
All right, thank you.
Anything else? I got a question, hypothetical, but I suppose it depends on who you talk to. It's going to be a done deal when it comes to privatizing CMHs in Michigan. And again, obviously it's not a done deal, but
Right.
it depends on who you talk to. So hypothetically, if the CMHs are privatized or the HMOs are utilized to handle the Medicaid dollars and so on and so forth, at that point, Lifeways would no longer be considered necessarily a public entity. Is that correct? I mean, it may be considered a public entity, but it would be getting its money through a private insurer.
it's really, because the CMH is funded by different funding streams, and we're still obligated per the code for the vulnerable in partnership, especially the uninsured, with our counties. So it's really about the Medicaid dollars. It's about who gets the Medicaid dollars first, and then the funneling down to the community mental health. There's still, regardless of who gets that first dollar, the need to ensure that there is a public mental health system who manages the specialty behavioral health services is still going to be required regardless. It's more about who's getting that first dollar and then how much ultimately would end up at the level of the community mental health as a result of a private entity taking the first.
Right, and as we know right now, Lifeway certainly is the only one that can do that. If that did happen, where would this county board fall into place? What kind of role would we play, or will we be completely out of the loop?
No, you would not be out of the loop, unless they were to change the mental health code. Because the mental health code is what sets the structure for the Community Mental Health Authority and the relationship between the CMH and the county commission, the appointments of the board members by the county commission. They'd have to change that entire code in order to dissolve that relationship with the county. I don't see a health plan wanting to pick up the responsibility of the uninsured within our community and the general fund. They'd have to change statute to even allow them to receive state general fund dollars.
Right, and I'm glad you clarified that. I mean, some of us are aware of that, but I believe that's a very important point that obviously everybody is taking into consideration, so.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. One second, Chairman.
I'd like to wander back to the sober housing opportunity.
Yes.
Who will be deciding who gets to be the resident? Is the drug court? And is that not a change in statute if you're mandatorily asked to be in this type of housing versus being put in jail?
I don't know that level of detail. I know it's going to be a partnership related to, the people that will be a part of it will be those that are part of the mental health drug court. Now, whether the requirement's going to be that they could actually say you are forced to actually to go there, I don't think so. The way that I understood it was that it's more about providing an opportunity for some supported housing that's not available for this population.
And who will determine when I'm cured or sober so that I have to move out?
I don't know that we know that level of detail.
Okay,
Again,
and after the building's built and we're put in place in operation, what government organization is going to be responsible for maintaining this? Because currently, subsidized housing is maintained by HUD, not by MISHDA.
MISHDA, right.
So who's going to have the burden of operation on year 3?
Well, I don't think it would be, we're not really even a part, I don't know if it would be the SUD side or if it'd be the mental health court. I don't really know. I don't know that answer.
Because the pathways that I see on all this is the county. And that means we're going to be taking on operations of a housing project, which we do not currently do. We have no organizational structure to maintain that. That's the first thing that really worries me, is that we get beyond grants and all that kind of
Right.
stuff, and all of a sudden, the general fund of the county is expected to maintain this 50 apartment unit. That's not 50 people. That's the other thing, too. According to MISHDA and HUD, there can be up to 3 people in one of those apartments.
Right.
So we could have 125 people living in a 50-unit apartment complex that's subsidized housing that all of a sudden the county has to maintain and take care of.
I can appreciate your concern. My suggestion would be to have some discussion with the individuals that are looking at this from the city, because that's where I'm hearing that's pushing this, related to having a proposal and wanting to look at a proposal. I don't really know that there's been no discussion about what our role would be at all. I think from a community mental health perspective, the only role that I would see would be related to if there's services and they wanted to be able to have the CMH provide on-site mental health services. But other than that, I don't know about the management of, you raised some good questions that I don't know the answers to. I could try to see if I could find them out, but I don't know them.
Okay.
I'd be happy to try to
And-
look into it.
Do we know where the housing tax credits fall now under the federal housing rule, now that we're rewriting the tax code there and they're eliminating all of these building credits
Yeah,
in the federal tax code?
yeah,
But we don't.
no.
Okay.
Go ahead, Daniel.
So just for clarification, when you say the city,
Yes.
are you saying that these questions would be better directed to city
Well-
council, or should we talk to Pat Birch? Or who at the city are you saying
Well-
are having these conversations about
Right.
putting this proposal together?
Maybe Pat, I'm just hearing that it's the city that is even offering up property. So I guess having discussions with them to be sure they understand the full scope of the project,
Okay,
that would be my suggestion.
okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mary Beth.
Yes. Am I done?
Yes,
All right, I'm sorry, I will look into some of your concerns. I apologize. I didn't
No,
realize I was going to be opening up again.
that's totally fine. We'll know you look into it.
All right,
Thank you.
all right,
Thank you very much.
Oh,
I just wanted to say thanks for entertaining the questions, and I kind of figured most of these questions, or some of these questions, you wouldn't kind of know the answer to, but it's at least nice that you're bringing this up, because,
Right.
I think that from the rumblings of the two locations that they're talking about that are within the city, I think either location is going to have a negative effect on bringing something like that to this community. So I just appreciate this discussion being had and this information being given out.
And I will look into the questions that you raised, and if I'm able to find the answers with discussions with Earl, I will bring them back at next month's meeting.
Mary Beth?
Yeah, Mary Beth, just, it sounded like, from my observation, that you were
Yes.
just bringing this to our attention, that this wasn't something that was a Lifeways initiative.
No.
or anything.
Well, I initiated the meeting because I had so many board members asking questions about what is happening with this.
Okay.
What is this? What's happening? What's the implication to Lifeways? And I thought the best thing to do was to bring them to the table and ask the questions.
Yeah,
So, yes,
thank you.
yep,
All right, thanks again.
all right.
Okay, Richard, we're on committee item number D. This is a Health Department contract agreement with the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality.
Good afternoon, all. Yes, it is. It's our standard annual contract agreement that we get every year and we bring to your, for your review. It has a slight economic increase for us, about $1,000 more than what we got in the past fiscal year. And that net increase is occurring in the non-community public drinking water supply program, septic waste, and swimming pool inspections. Other than that, there are no other changes in the agreement. It's pretty standard from the one that we just finished. And we'd like to continue to have this contract agreement in place with DEQ. It does bring over, well, roughly around $50,000 to the community to support those program services. So I'd ask for your support.
Okay, first we'll need a motion and support on this. Okay, any questions for Richard? All those in favor, so going to say an aye? Aye. Nay? All right, thank you very much. Richard, you're on again.
Thank you. The next agreement is one that we have kicked around for nearly 12 months or so with Pfizer and West Interactive Services. This is an opportunity for us to get some free support, if you will, for reminder recall in the community. We normally do this on a quarterly basis at the Health Department using the Michigan Children's Immunization Registry, but Pfizer and West Interactive are much more better organized to do this work than we do, and they have staff dedicated specifically for this purpose. We did have this reviewed by legal counsel. There were a couple of minor concerns that were brought up, but as we talked it through, we kind of figured out that they weren't enough to be a deal breaker, if you will, for us with this particular effort. And so that is why I brought it to the board for your consideration. It would potentially, if it was wildly successful, perhaps result in about a 20 to 30% increase in vaccine uptake. This program is targeted more specifically toward children and not adults. We have more information in the MICR on children than we do adults. And we probably would save roughly about $3,000 in postage costs on an annual basis by not having to do this work ourselves. It does require a business associate agreement with Pfizer and West, but we're pretty familiar with those and don't have any concerns. That would assure that we're protected health information that's associated with this effort. So there's no cost to us, and a number of the health departments in the state have gone in this direction, and we'd like to go there as well. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have about the agreement or in my staff report, and we'd like to try this and see if it works out for us.
All right, thank you, Richard. Be looking for a motion and support on this. Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments on this for Richard? Okay, all those in favor, so they're going to say an aye. Not, signal nay. All right, thank you very much. Richard,
Thank you.
you're done.
The monthly report, just a few quick updates from some of the content. I know Mary Beth mentioned the state innovation model as well and how much work is going on with that. I can assure you that the health department is involved in just about every work group associated with this project as well. There is a SIM update attached with my monthly report in board docs, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about any of that content. We also received a notification of a grant award in the Teen Pregnancy Prevention Initiative. We applied for a grant from the Blue Cross Blue Shield Michigan Foundation, and they did approve our request in the amount of $50,000 for 24 months. And we're going to use this to expand the teen outreach program, which we think has been very successful with teens, involving teen mentors. And there also was a, excuse me, in early October, a television station news story on the decline in teen pregnancy in Jackson County. So we're doing great things and continuing to push that rate down. Sometimes we wonder whether our efforts collectively to increase our visibility and image in the community matter, and so I did include just one little paragraph in here about organizational clothing and whether it's a good investment. Well, in this particular case, it definitely was. It just basically describes that one of our staff members out in the community running an errand ran into a woman who was pregnant and was going to have her first child. She wanted more information about the WIC program, and that simple connection enabled us to help her get enrolled in the WIC program in an early fashion. So we're glad to see those kinds of things happen. It's really good news. We also got a $5,000 award from the Frank and Irene Meyer Foundation supporting the abstinence program, and it just happened as a result of Nicoya Weatherspoon, our coordinator, as a result of presentation at the Benefit for the Dahlem Center on October 18th. So very exciting things are happening with the expansion potentially of the Get Real Summer program with those funds, which would probably happen, obviously, this coming summer in 2018. Hepatitis A, we continue to monitor the outbreak in the southeast Michigan counties. To date, we still have not seen a case associated with the outbreak strain here in Jackson County, but there is a lot of renewed interest, if you will, in hepatitis A vaccination. The hospital is currently ordering at least an additional 100 doses for the community. I think they can order 100 at a time. And even some of our local agencies in the community have had requests for vaccination, and usually that's been handled through private health insurance reimbursement and administration. We are continuing to communicate with the Sheriff's Department. There's some interest there from Sheriff Rand in having some of his staff vaccinated, and we're going to support him as needed based on his request. One of the new things that came up recently was that, and I didn't even know about it, there was a pilot medical waste inspection program run through the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. There were perhaps, I think, about 9 different health departments in the state that participated in this. And this involves local health departments, usually environmental health staff, actually going out and inspecting the waste disposal, medical waste disposal sites, and we have obviously many in Jackson County as well. The DEQ has always had the authority to actually implement and do these inspections. They've never had the resources to do it. I'm not sure where they came up with the resources for the pilot, but they did. We were not one of the pilot counties, but we are being asked if we're interested potentially in doing this. So we're currently evaluating that in the Environmental Health Division. I just want to let you know that this is something that might come down the road, and we might be asked to do that. So there are definitely some benefits to it. They did discover a number of different concerns and issues, which I don't think were surprises, both from the administration and the handling of medical waste. And it does add an additional layer of safety and security to the community to make sure it's being done right. So that's pretty much everything I had in my report for you today, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
All right, thank you, Richard.
You're
Committee
welcome.
members, any questions, comments? Any other commissioners? Administrator? Very good report, and that's it.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Okay, and last, okay, and not least,
Of course not. Thank
Zoe?
you. Good afternoon. First, I apologize for not getting the report to you ahead of time. We won't let that happen again. So I'm just going to go over everything that I have in the report since you didn't have it ahead of time, and then answer any questions that you might have. I would echo Mary Beth's plea for prayers for her board member. Her board member is also one of my staff members, so together we are trying to think positive thoughts for this man. Handle with Care is the first on my report. As you might recall, we started this program last year in our county. It was a pilot program from February until the end of the school year, and it's the program in which our law enforcement officers communicate with our schools. If they believe that a child has been on scene at something that is potentially traumatic, then the next day they send the school a notice that says handle with care. And the school, having become trauma-informed and getting more and more trauma-informed all the time, just responds to that child in a way that we hope keeps that child sort of settled and able to stay in school and learn. The third piece of that program is that for kids that need something a little bit more, on-site therapy is offered at the schools, and the school will coordinate with the agency that comes on site and the parents in order to provide that therapy. Last year during our pilot, we did 173 children who received Handle with Care notices, and so far this year, we are at just about 230. So it's really going very well. We have been joined by Eaton County, who went live with Handle with Care in October, and there are approximately 20 other counties in the state that are interested in replicating this program. So it's pretty exciting for our county. I attached a community collaboration list for you. This is just a list of the meetings within our community that either I or my staff attend. And as both Richard and Mary Beth mentioned, we are intimately involved in our SIM projects and have somebody, again, in almost every single work group related to our state innovation model. One thing I didn't put on my report that we're involved in through the state innovation model is a community living room to fight loneliness. So if you pay attention to any of the human service articles related to trauma and health, one of the things that you'll see is that loneliness is actually an indicator of poor health and even early death. And so through our state innovation model, we actually have 2 community living rooms, the Crisis Respite Center that Mary Beth mentioned, and then this second community living room to fight loneliness. It is going to be housed at, we're going to have 2 of them actually. One of them is going to be housed at Reed Manor in their community room. It will be accessible to the entire community, and we'll have all kinds of things just to allow people to come in and spend some time with other people and not have to be alone. So we have not determined our second site yet. I know the library has been interested, and we're looking at other places in the community that we think might be a good spot for that. Michigan, as you may have heard, has started a new payment system and data collection system that went live on October 1st. Just letting you know that as any new payment system goes up, there have been delays in payments and struggles in learning and how to use it properly. That is very specific to state payments, however, so our county payments are going through fine, and no issues with that at this time. We continue to learn more about Sigma every day. Integrated service delivery is coming to the state of Michigan, and Jackson is in the first round to get integrated service delivery. It's, again, a 3-pronged approach to providing improved services to our clients and our offices. First, it's a service portal, so folks can log in to MyBridges from any computer, and the portal will actually help people sort of set goals for themselves. It will help them make referrals to things that they might need, such as food, mental health therapy, housing, transportation, and then those referrals will take place through that system, and there will be a feedback loop. We have the second rung of it is universal caseloads. So my staff will no longer have caseloads of 500 or 600 or 800. Instead, all of the cases will go through sort of a funnel system, and they will be funneled to my staff based on the task that is needed on that case. And along with that comes a contact call center. So again, because the staff don't have caseloads, and then they don't need a voicemail to answer their calls, all of the calls will come through a contact call center. And when people call, they will talk to a person. they'll have to hit some numbers to get to that person, so I don't want to lead you the wrong direction with that. But once they get to the person, their question will be answered, and the casework that they're calling in for will be done. So this will, we think, will be a huge benefit for our clients, who right now, one of the major complaints that I hear is, I've called my worker, they haven't called me back, I've called over and over again, and because they have such high caseloads, returning calls becomes difficult. While it's not acceptable, it's sort of a reality of the work, and so these things put together, we think will make our clients much, much happier, because the work that they need to get their food, to get their insurance, and to get what they need will get done. We are expanding in our Pathways to Potential program, so I received my allocation in October for my staff, and was asked if I could have anything I wanted, what would it be? And I said, probably I would like a couple more workers to be in our schools. And so I was allocated 2 additional workers to go into schools. I've been in communication with our superintendents in our community, and Northwest Schools has voiced interest. They already have 1 worker in their schools, but they have 2 elementary schools, so this will allow for 1 to be in each of their very large elementary schools. And then Vandercook Lake is the other superintendent who voiced interest, and so because none of the other districts voiced interest, we're going to go with those 2 schools for expansion, and I have a meeting set up with those superintendents. Just to let you know, I put what we've done for holiday support for our community. So DHHS worked with Jackson Police Department to provide meals for 13 families in the community. It actually started with the police department getting a donation of $300, I think, and a request for the police department to provide meals. And we combined with some internal donations, and we were able to double that and do those donations. Question?
Zoe, Chairman
Yes.
Shallow.
Very nice report. This question pertains more to go forward type timing.
Okay.
The different boards and authorities that we work with, normally we get a year in advance schedule of when their meetings are. And I was kind of hoping to get a DHS one. I used to get one, and I didn't see one. I think I may have missed it or something in 17
Okay.
on when the meetings are.
Yep,
So
we
that
definitely
way-
have that.
Yeah, so that way we can, that way if we want to attend, we can. I try to make 1 meeting a year of each one of the committees, just so I can see where they're at operationally and everything. So yeah, it'd
Absolutely.
be nice to have,
And our board, we have the same board as the medical care facility.
correct?
So I'm not sure which title comes first on the list, but keep that in mind as well, that it's a joint board.
Reads DHS/MCF.
All right.
So at least the previous
Yes. And
doctrines did, so yeah.
we'll get that sent out
Thank
to
you.
everyone, because I know, well, here's the thing. Now that I think about it, they don't schedule these meetings a year in advance. They schedule them month to month. Usually, we have to post them, I think, 30 days in advance, so they're scheduled about 45 days ahead. They, so it hasn't been like that in the 4 years that I've been here. I actually have requested that myself twice, and it's, for some reason, the medical care facility director finds that difficult, but if it would be easier for the county commissioners, we can revisit that. We have a meeting tomorrow, so we can revisit that. Yes?
I got a thought. I do attend those every month and have since I've been Human Services Chair. And I get the emails. Is there any reason why it just couldn't be sent to the commissioners?
No, we can send it to everyone. Mhm.
Right, okay. So if they just commissioners as a whole, and if any commissioner wants to go,
Absolutely.
obviously, okay,
Yes.
right. And everybody knows.
So people can plan meetings, other meetings. We all have multitudes of meetings.
Right, and it's really hard when it's only 40, I know it seems like 45 days should be enough, but it's really not. Yeah. We will revisit that. We can revisit that tomorrow for sure.
Thank you.
You bet. Finally, the last couple of things, just, I have to always say that we have a need for foster parents. Just to give you a small example, we removed children from 4 families last Friday, and we just had extreme difficulty finding placements for them. It's hard to keep siblings together in the same family. It's hard to find homes for our kids that are age 10 and up. And it may seem like 10 and up, you know, we could put them somewhere maybe farther away or maybe in a shelter and it wouldn't be so difficult. But it's heart-wrenching to have to put kids in shelter placements. So please spread the word that we really could use foster parents. And we can also use the support for foster parents. So I try to be just straight up and honest that foster parenting is hard. Kids are hard. They are not thankful for the home because they don't want to be there. They want to be with their parents. So it's hard work to do, and yet it's necessary, and we need people to also support the foster parents that we have. You know, take kids for an evening so they can go to a movie or go out for dinner or just those types of things. So we are able and willing to just screen anyone who would be willing to come in and just be of support. So last 2 things, we have a new community, yes.
Is there any way you could just send me some information on like requirements for foster parents, or do you guys have like
Absolutely.
a flyer or something
We
put
have
together?
all kinds of stuff.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
I will send that to you. We have a new community resource coordinator. My previous coordinator, Edwin Payne, has left state employment to start his own business. So my new coordinator is Angie Guadagnini. And you will probably see her out and about in the community as you attend your community functions. And our child care fund update, we are, of course, it's early in our budget year and things are going well. We're on track. So thank you so much. And if there are any questions?
Anything further?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
At what point do you take children from the home? I mean, I know it's a broad question, but the reason it's on my mind a little bit is I was volunteering this weekend, and I won't say what organization or anything like that, but we were trying to make Christmas help. We were helping Santa out this weekend,
Right.
You know, and we went
Thank
to
you.
a particular home, and you know, you walk in the door, and there's like 5 kids under 9 and no furniture. I mean, none.
Mm-hmm.
And I look around, and there's a few plastic bins with clothes kind of piled in them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking, you know, like a plastic bin kind of thing, and I'm just like,
Did they just move in?
no, I don't believe so.
Yeah.
And you know, it just breaks your heart, but I'm like, well, at what point, because when we decide, you know, we had the one child that we took shopping, and when it was time to go back home, she didn't want to go. She's like, do we have to? And I'm like, yeah, it's that time. You know, and my wife was pretty tore up about the whole thing, and I'm just kind of like, well, what
Right.
point?
Well, certainly anyone, just so you know, anyone can make a protective services complaint, or I have a prevention worker too. So if there's something that you think, like, it's suspicious to me that a home with 0 furniture in it, that's suspicious to me. But it doesn't mean abuse or neglect, but we have a prevention worker who could go out and say, hey, we have some resources. We could get you a dining room table and chairs and a sofa, and do you have beds, and, you know, those types of things. So we do have someone that the community can make a referral to, and we can send them out to do a home call. Totally voluntary.
I'm not, personally not. My wife and I have been married for 33 years, but we've been involved through Big Brothers Big Sisters. And mom sometimes gets the kids, you know, we talk about suitcase living, they plastic tub live them. And if the boyfriend gets fed up and doesn't want them in the house anymore, it's Friday night and they're out at 1:30 in the morning.
Right.
So sometimes it's easier to move if you store yourself in
Yep.
tubs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, and I give you guys a lot of credit for having to do what you do. You're right. Make a decision on whether or not a kid needs to be taken away from a parent, because psychologically, even though the child has lived a horrendous life, they're still with mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that separation occurs, and there's that now that they have to deal with.
Right,
Yeah, all the psychological,
right,
on top of that, and a lot of times the kids are what take care of mom.
right.
I've seen those relationships too, where it's the kid that actually is the adult in the situation.
Right.
So
To answer
if
your,
you take the adult away, the 12-year-old child, then it even gets harder to deal with.
yeah. Imminent risk is the term that we use that's required for us to think about removing a child. So we try to do everything that we possibly can to keep children in their homes. But if it gets to a point where we believe that either the drug use of the parents or the inability or unwillingness to make changes leaves that child at imminent risk, meaning if we don't remove that child, we believe that child will be harmed, that's what we use to make that decision to remove or not. I was at the Drug Summit on Friday, and there was a lot of talk, obviously, about the heroin use in this community. I have had, so this is the other side of the heroin overdoses. I have had at least, I would say, 10 children that are in our care and custody, and their parents die due to a heroin overdose, and my staff have to go out and tell the children that their parents have died. And in all honesty, my staff aren't trained for that. That's not what they sign up for, and yet that's what they've become. And so, that's just one of the extra things that happens in the work that we do every day. And it's starting to happen more often, unfortunately.
Zoe?
Yes.
Just, a last question, just a thought. How often are these kids, are they being re-fostered to family members, or do you guys reach out to family members to see if they may qualify to try to further attempt to keep all the kids
We
together?
always look for family members first. They have to have a suitable housing, and they have to pass clearances, so they can't have their own Children's Protective Services history. Recently, I will even go that far, because if they have a history from 15 years ago, but they've had 15 years of parenting without issues, we can do an exception on that. They have to criminal history with, again, significant things. There are some things that that will not stop them from being able to take their children. And then housing is really, do they have enough bedrooms? Do the bedrooms have doors? Those types of things. So we look to relatives first. Right now, we are asking all of our relatives to be licensed. So they also have to agree to be licensed and go through the licensing process, which takes about 6 months to do. But we will put kids with them while they are being licensed. So that doesn't stop the kids from being placed with a relative.
Commissioner Williams?
Zoe, regarding support for foster parents, does the county have a sort of a respite for those parents? Does it have any kind of a program where I mean, it's hard enough, I know, to find the foster parents, but then to also have some type of a network or some type of a formal process in place for respiting those kids to allow the parents to go out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Do we have anything like that, or is there any discussion or anything
I'm
like that?
going to look to Mary Beth a little bit. There are some mental health respite centers that I know our kids have gone into for weekends and things of that nature. And so we work together with Lifeways to do that. But the vast majority of our kids don't need the mental health respite, but the parents could still use a break. So they work together, so they're a very good network amongst themselves. We have just recently set up a mentoring program, so I met with a lot of our, I invited all of our foster parents to come in and meet with me. A few showed up. And we are going to do a mentoring program. So some of our more experienced folks who have been through and know what resources are being mentored with our newer foster parents. But the sad truth of it is, it used to be you could sign up to be a foster parent, and you might not get a child the first few weeks, even the few months, and when you do, you'll get one, and then you sort of learn the system and you learn what the kids need. We're at a point where people get licensed, and we're calling them that day and seeing if they can take 4 kids. And that just adds to the difficulty. One of my supervisors, her mother was a foster parent, a relative foster parent who became licensed years ago. But she just came to me and said, I think we should do something for the biological children of our foster parents, because even if they say, yes, we would like to have you be foster parents, mom and dad, they don't necessarily understand what that means. And oftentimes they give so much of their own parents to these other kids, and they don't get much support. So in January, we're going to meet with the biological kids of our foster parents and see how we can support them. So there's a lot to do to support everybody in getting these kids what they need.
Okay, if that's it, thank you very much. Like
Thanks.
the chairman said, very thorough report, and like so many department agencies, a lot of challenges. Thank you. Okay, we're on to other business 5A. Need a motion of support for claims to go to the full board. We have a motion of support. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Not nay. Oh, haven't heard that in a long time. Okay, other minutes. Didn't get by me, Daniel. Other minutes, if you look at your other minutes, it is the MDHHS committee meeting minutes from October. We now are on to the number C, January reporting schedule, Aging Department, Health Department, Lifeways, Animal Shelter, and CAA. Public comment. Okay, no public comment. We're down to...
Can I have one
Oh,
comment?
Richard, what are you doing?
Sorry, I just meant to mention this in my monthly report and forgot. I know, Carl, you were at the drug summit along with myself, and I had quite a few of my staff there. I just wanted to mention that for the first time since we've had the drug summit meetings, that we do have an actual data report now. We've been doing this public health surveillance. We started in April this year. We put that report together. I want to make sure that the board members know that this report exists. You could have a presentation here if you're interested, or we can just make sure that you get the report in your hands. Your choice.
Well, certainly if that could be sent to us by PDF or something of that nature, all the commissioners through the administrator, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. And no other public comment. Committee member comments. Anybody? Nothing. All right. It is 12:59 and we are adjourned at the call of the chair.